Birdley, hello, and further to my application for the position of lecteur for your auction wins, I thought I'd better do you a sort of sample, an audition, call it. I have done one for you already. Well, I've started now, so I'll carry on. I tried hard to think what to do, and Melville still hovers on the horizon tantalizingly, but I think it might be the rock that breaks me. We'll try that later on if you're if you're still kind enough to be encouraging me. So, in place of him, well, you can't really put in place of him because he's irreplaceable. In quite simply the best. But here's someone who isn't the best. Although people who like to state the obvious think that she is. It's possibly your friend, possibly your worst nightmare, Camille P. Her collection of essays, Sex, Art, and American Culture, which includes what was to be the preface to her magnum opus, Sexual Personae, and for some reason which I haven't bothered to look up, it was cancelled, and they've stuck it in here in his collection of essays instead. So I'll read a little bit of that and see how far we get. And my voice is husky than usual because it's 4:30 in the morning here, and there's very bad light, so I can't really see the text that well. I'm not going to move. Sit over here underneath a slightly brighter light. Excuse me. Yes, this looks a little bit better. See, it's all interactive with me. Camille P. Sexual Personae, the Cancelled Preface, from the book Sex, Art, and American Culture. Sexual Personae seeks to demonstrate the unity and continuity of Western culture, something that has inspired little belief since before World War I. Volume 1 surveys literature and art from antiquity until the end of the 19th century. Volume 2 examines modern popular culture, drama, television, sports, rock music. Personality is at the heart of the West. Governing its representations in art are principles I call Apollonian and Dionysian, on a theory elaborated from passages in Plutarch, Nietzsche, and G. Wilson Knight. Now, there's a trinity I've never heard before. These terms were used by German scholarship in a sometimes vague or portentous way. I fine-tune them for practical criticism. I see the Apollonian and Dionysian as a cyclic pattern of expansion and retraction, of the shapeless and the definitive. Everything implicit in the Iliad, the first great Western book, returns in a historical wave in modern popular culture, which I view as an eruption of our buried paganism. Western man represents himself, on the political or psychological stage, in a spectacular world theatre. Our personality is innately cinematic, light-charged projections flickering on the screen of Western consciousness. Sexual Personae shows how much morally disturbing material in literature and art has been overlooked or glossed over by scholars, and secondly, how this material can be understood as a survival or recreation of paganism. Many of my assumptions are quaintly pre-modernist. I believe that history has shape, order, and meaning, that exceptional men, as much as economic forces, can produce change, and that passé abstractions like beauty, nobility, and greatness have a shifting but continuing validity. I want to restore the terms art and culture to their general 19th century sense. But I also want to apply art to everything artificial or fabricated, including engineering projects like roads and bridges. Art for me means all works of imagination, from poetry to television commercials to pornography, with questions of quality still operative. I see the Western past as a story, episodic and cumulative. My reading of that story will show its symmetries, echoes, and internal development, its symbolization of thought and action in modes of personality I call personae. Persona is the Latin word for the clay or wooden mask worn by actors in Greek and Roman theatre. Its root is probably personare, meaning to sound through or to resound. The mask was a kind of megaphone, projecting the voice to the farthest tiers of spectators. Over time, personae broadened in meaning to include the actor's role, and then a social role or public function. Finally, it defined an individual under Roman law, as a citizen with rights and duties. We retain this sense in reverse in our non-person, a political victim. By late Latin, personae became a person as we now understand it, a human being apart from his social status. Vico economically fuses the early theatrical and later legal meanings of persona when he says of the Roman paterfamilias, under the person or mask of the father of the family, under the person or mask of the family, I'm blind here. Under the person or mask of the father of the family were concealed all his children and servants. Western personality thus originates in the idea of mask. Society is the place of mask, in ritual theatre. Persona's artistic origins were recovered by modernism and the new criticism, which stripped the text of biographical baggage. For the new critics, a writer never speaks for himself, but only through an assumed persona, a mask. Following World War II, the classroom set piece was Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal, where a self-absorbed voice, airily proposing the cannibalistic farming of Irish infants, is the butt of the author's satire. Irony and game-playing are central to this view of literature and life. The new critical persona was indebted to Young, who sees a split between our inner and outer selves, an authentic psychic reality versus the mask conforming to social expectations. Popularized Jungianism, especially in its American feminist form, has become increasingly Rousseauist. That is, it tends to view our society as automatically restrictive or oppressive instead of educative or civilizing. My personae are not strategies of irony or social adaptation, but cinematic visualizations, products of an archaic process of picture thought. The brain is the neurological repository of the human past, or memory, I think, in other words. And personae are the hidden masks of our ancestors and heirs. Man is not merely the sum of his mask. Behind the shifting face of personality is a hard nugget of self, a genetic gift. I believe only some master principle of heredity, defying liberal theories of environmentalism, can account for the profusion of human types, often manifested within a single family. The self is malleable but elastic, snapping back to its original shape like a rubber band. Mental illness is no myth, as some have claimed. It is a disturbance in our sense of possession of a stable inner self that survives its persona. Gosh, very good definition. Oh, heck. My title was inspired by a film, Ingmar Bergman's Persona. When I saw it at an American release in January 1968, it seemed to crystallize the reflections of my college years, which led to the thesis for Sexual Persona, that the high development of personality in the West has produced a perverse sexual problematics unique to world culture. Persona, surely inspired by Strindberg's one-act play The Stronger, is about power relationships and the use of personae in scenes of psychic combat. Nature's law here is cruelty, not pity. In a dreamy atmosphere of sexual ambiguity, and through interludes of speech and silence, the film shows the revolution and dissolution of Western personae. Its stunning close-ups force us to contemplate the plasticity and yet stoniness of the human face. Bergman's style, alternately iconic and metamorphic, represents both Apollo and Dionysus. Persona is a case study of the themes of my book: fascination, entrancement, obsession, narcissism, vampirism, mesmerism, seduction, violation. All the still uncharted psychodynamics of erotic, artistic, and theatrical cathexis. Power struggles, dominance and submission, sexual personae often invokes the great chain of being, the ancient idea of a pyramidal system uniting earth and heaven. One of my constant words is hierarchical, all things being equal. But things are never equal. The traumas of the 60s persuaded me that my generation's egalitarianism was a sentimental error. Woodstock turned in 4 months into Altamont. After endless quarrels with authority, prankish disruptiveness, and impatience with management and procedure, I now see the hierarchical as both beautiful and necessary. Efficiency liberates. Egalitarianism tangles, delays, blocks, deadens. I marvel, in fact, at the extraordinary orderliness of human life, which must be the instinctual brain-based recall of the individual to the group. Even the gods, the preeminent sexual personae of this book, are projections of our innate biological hierarchism. But while biology is our hidden fate, it is art and artifice that I am in love with. And they are my subject. I don't know if you were grinding your teeth during that, and I don't just mean at my voice, but about some of that. I really do like her, generally. But, like all people who want to be celebrities, she's a bit annoying. Just struggling back there. Anyway, that was reasonably interesting, I thought. You're asleep now, I guess, so you'll be... Well, you won't. You might not want to. This might be available when you're having breakfast. So pour yourself another cup of coffee and have a lovely day. Bye-bye.